Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California, and we are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here, Ken Napzok.
I'm back. It's been a while. So glad to be here sitting next to my friend, John Jeremys.
Exactly, he's here, Jeremy Jahns.
Hi, I'm John Jeremys. I am the loser with no laptop. Your eyes do not deceive you. I am just that unawesome.
It's okay. Also here's Mark Ellis.
Hey guys, do you like the jersey I'm wearing? It's not at all a ploy to remind you guys that I'm going to be in Seattle this weekend.
All right, let's get started. What's first?
All right, Deadpool 2 hit some early creative speed bumps when it was first announced, but the movie now seems to be back on track and gearing up for production. With the rumored addition of the character Domino, the other big casting news most fans are waiting for revolves around Deadpool's frenemy Cable. Now, the internet seems convinced that a former James Bond actor is up for the role. Yesterday, Hugh Jackman and Reynolds each shared an image of themselves with former Bond Pierce Brosnan, and that led to a wave of coverage declaring Brosnan a likely, albeit perfect, casting choice as the one-eyed time-traveling mutant. John, what do you think based on these images? Is it a sign that Pierce Brosnan has been cast as Cable in Deadpool 2?
All right, look. Whenever a picture comes out and all the fans try to connect some dots that don't exist. So this must mean this happens. Oh, there's a picture of Reynolds having coffee in a Mexican place. That must mean that Deadpool 2 is going to happen in Mexico. And artificially, like I said, connecting dots that do not exist. This is too much. Look, this is one of those things where I'm like, look, they have not said that this means anything. They have not said that this means we're doing something together. But even I, who am one of the foremost skeptics when it comes to connecting artificial dots, I'm looking at this and why the hell would both, and remember, this isn't some picture from behind the scenes 5 years ago. Reynolds put this out. Hugh Jackman put this out on their social media feeds. In the midst of everybody talking about, will Wolverine, will Hugh Jackman don the claws one more time after Logan and pop up in a Deadpool movie? With all that discussion going on, these three jerk-offs decide to put out a picture of the three of them sitting on a couch and not saying what it's about at all, but laughing a lot. Look, I'll be the first to admit it. It's completely understandable that everybody is speculating on this because it seems like these guys are putting out a pretty clear message. Now, let's look at some alternative possibilities. Maybe these three guys just signed a deal to be the new Three Amigos. I mean, maybe they could. I mean, they're doing the little hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil thing. Maybe they're Three Amigos. Maybe they're the new Three Musketeers. Maybe they're doing a remake of Three Musketeers and they're just doing something together. Anything is possible, I suppose. But obviously, I think from a fan's point of view, without any honest proof to back it up, I think this is a pretty clear sign that, yes, Hugh Jackman has agreed to be in Deadpool 2. But let me throw out one thing about Pierce Brosnan. He wouldn't be a bad Cable at all. He would be a pretty damn good Mr. Sinister. So I'm just throwing that out there, too, that maybe because we heard that maybe Mr. Sinister was going to be in Logan, but then we've heard nothing about that since. And maybe, Brosnan is our new Essex. Maybe I don't know. But I do love that they put these pictures out. Anyway, Mark Ellis, you had a chance to see these pictures. What conclusions are you drawing,
Well,
sir?
John, one of my favorite pastimes is watching Saved by the Bell reruns. Another one is connecting dots, and I am totally on board with Pierce Brosnan being Cable because there's really two pieces of information we get from this picture. Hugh Jackman's in it, so are we thinking that he's going to be making an appearance in Deadpool 2? And Pierce Brosnan's in it, so now we have to try to fit him into that movie as well because we're pretty sure, as the well-thinking audience that we are, that neither one of these guys is going to be in the Logan movie, right?
Yeah.
So now we're thinking this is is Deadpool 2, and we know how much they want Cable in there, whether Tim Miller wanted Kyle Chandler and Ryan Reynolds wanted a different Cable. So we're thinking, okay, that. Then you look at some artwork for Cable, especially early in his career when he was launched with part of X-Men and X-Force. It's like, that could actually be played by Pierce Brosnan pretty damn well. So those are easy dots to connect. The tougher one for me is Hugh Jackman, who is, he kept saying that he's never going to be Wolverine again. Is he going to be Wolverine in Deadpool 2, or is he just going to show up as Hugh Jackman in Deadpool 2? I'll take it either way, but I think these pictures are a clear indication from very social media savvy human beings, not jerk-offs, human beings that know that they're having fun with the fans and that it's going to lead to something down the road. I think that he's Cable.
Jeremy Jahns, are we jumping to unrealistic conclusions, or does it seem like they're painting a pretty clear picture?
All right, let me bring some logic and reason here. All right, here we are, right here. What we have are three guys in a picture, look like they were in the waiting room at the dentist's office, and they're like, hey, let's take a selfie together. That'll crash the... And I really think they were like, hey, you want to blow some minds? You know those movie talk guys? Let's get them talking. You know, all right, let's take a picture. Because, like Ellis said, I'm really glad you brought that up. If the picture means the guy in the middle is going to be in Deadpool, then you have to, by proxy, say the picture must mean the guy on the left must also be in Deadpool. And if the guy on the left is not going to be in Deadpool, that's Hugh Jackman, then it doesn't mean the guy in the middle is in Deadpool. Deadpool is Fox. Logan is Fox. So they're probably at the Fox studio. I think what this means is Pierce Brosnan is probably going to be in a movie by Fox. And they were all in the studio together, and they're like, hey, let's take a selfie. That's what I do think is happening, is somehow he's going to be in a Fox picture.
So you're speculating here that these guys, knowing, because as you pointed out, Mark, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, very active on social media. They're very social media savvy. They know full well, what will our audience assume if we put this out? You think Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are literally trolling their followers right now?
I would do that. Like I would if
and it would be pretty funny
if the three of us, if I were Ryan Reynolds or any of those guys and we were all in a room, I would be like, we have to take a selfie because I just need to see what happens. If you look at the hashtag, it's Wolverine Bond Deadpool, not Wolverine Cable Deadpool. They only reference him as Bond.
But that would be becoming explicit. That would be giving it away.
I agree, but I think. It's kind of like when spoiler alert for The Force Awakens, when Rey was the Force user, and I was like, oh, I thought Finn was going to be the Force user because, you know, all the trailers built it up like that. And then this one person on Twitter literally was like, it was obvious she was going to be the Force user. She was on a desert planet. They all are. And I was like, you ended up being right, but that's stupid logic. Like, that's not logic enough. So it's like, it's quite possible that this means he is Cable, but there's not enough information there. I think he's going to be in a movie by Fox.
All right. Oh, Ken Napzok, what are you making of all this?
Gentlemen, never have I seen three movie pundits who are professionals miss the mark. This is the Remington Still movie I've been waiting for since the 80s. This clearly has been greenlit, produced by these two fine actors flanking Pierce Brosnan, one of the treasures of this galaxy. Look, Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, in this day and age where Jeremy and I can tweet a picture from islands and people think Collider's moving to Hawaii, these two guys know how to use social media better than almost any other actors out there. Jackman had that shot of him the first time I received the Logan script. He put it on Instagram. Ryan Reynolds is just a marketing genius with what he does with himself. I absolutely think this is intentional. It might not be what we think. I think Stephen Lang is still Have you seen Stephen Lang's biceps, Ellis? Have you looked at that guy in the gym?
I saw him right here in the studio. He walked by me.
It makes me question things about myself. Stephen Lang should be Cable. This Mr. Sinister's a good thought.
Yeah,
it could not be what we think it is. I think it's definitely intentional at some point. I don't think they're trolling. But at the same time, with the way Ryan Reynolds is and Jackman is, it could be. They ran it. It does kind of look like a dentist's office. Wolverine Bond Deadpool is the name I use on Plenty of Fish, so I hope it works for me there. But I think it's an intriguing picture. And Brosnan, I actually seriously do love the guy. I think he was an underrated Bond. He gets kind of forgotten. That first Bond movie back was fun for me. So it's interesting. I don't know if exactly what we think, but I think it's something.
Now, I think trolling's a strong word. I think messing with the internet would be, because, I mean, like I said, I would do that. I do think the Sinister thing is a much more likely, it's a much more likely thing for him to be than Cable. But I'm not saying he's not in an X-Men movie or a Marvel-ish Fox movie of sorts. I'm just saying it's a little too early to say, oh, by the way, he's Cable in Deadpool 2.
And of course, let's not forget, Brosnan is the Bond who taught us that Christmas comes more than once a year. All right, so I want to go over to the communications table over here. Ashley and Wendy, look, you guys, you're at home, then you see these pictures come across your social media feed. Honestly, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you see this?
I wouldn't have thought that unless it was in today's show notes. But I really wish that he used the hashtag, because I think that would have been such a Deadpool move, like classic Deadpool, to kind of reveal it like that.
You know, it took me a second to realize it was Pierce Brosnan. And I was like, who's that guy sitting in the middle? He kind of looks like he can, is this what's happening? So I am kind of excited. I hope it's true that Pierce Brosnan is going to be Cable. I see it. He looks like the guy. I mean, my number one pick would still be Stephen Lang, a.k.a.
Slang.
But, you know, I'll take Pierce Brosnan if I can get him, too.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Lang's obviously a guy we would all love to see play Cable, absolutely. But I want to ask you guys, we actually, you know what? Mark Riley, get a Twitter poll put up. Check out our Turks. I need to put up a poll on this. I want to know what you guys think. Is this, number one, is this a case that these guys are just trolling their fans and having some fun, in which case would be pretty awesome, something for them to do? Or do you think this is them sending out the first shot saying, hey, guys, Hugh Jackman and Pierce Brosnan are going to appear in the next Deadpool movie? So does the picture mean they're going to appear in the Deadpool movie? Yes or no? Let us know. We're going to put that Twitter poll up right now. Check that in about 30 seconds and then leave your vote. And we'll check in near the end of the show to see what you guys are saying about that, because this is just too funny. I love this stuff. Okay, what's next?
I love the pose, by the way.
It is. It's great.
All right, Legendary Entertainment Chairman and CEO Thomas Tull yesterday announced the departure from the company he founded back in 2000. The maker of such films as 300, Pacific Rim, Man of Steel, and The Dark Knight trilogy, Tull was involved more than most studio heads, even forming the story for The Great Wall with screenwriter Max Brooks, and personally pushing for Godzilla and Pacific Rim because he was a fan of the material. Per the press release, Tull will move on to other business endeavors, but will remain a producer on the MonsterVerse with Kong Skull Island, the Godzilla sequels, Kong vs. Godzilla, as well as the new adaptation of Dune. Jeremy, what do you make of Thomas Tull's abrupt departure from Legendary Pictures?
I love the fact that the suit steps down from his chair and you go to me first. Okay, here we go. Here's some reality for you guys. I do find it interesting, the fact that there are some hits and misses among Legendary Pictures, but there was a long stretch of time I was like, anything Legendary Pictures does, I'm going to see, because they're really crushing right now. And really, the movies coming out, I'm looking forward to, just like it was 10 years ago. So the fact that he's stepping down, I hope it's a sense where he's like, you know, I have everything I want. I want to go on a beach somewhere and sip margaritas and play golf and do nothing else. And I hope so. And good job, American Dream. You did it, buddy. If it's anything else, I would be a little perplexed. Maybe I'm missing something. But I don't see why this dude would be kind of forced out of his position unless, you know.
Tull? Yeah, no way.
Yeah, right. So I really think it's a sense where he's like, all right, I did my thing, and now I'm going to go relax for the rest of my life, which is, let's face it, that's my dream too.
You know, here's the thing. A lot of us, when we think of Legendary Pictures, we'll think of The Dark Knight. We'll think of the superhero films. We'll think of, like, Godzilla. But we forget, like, Tull has had his hands in films like The Town, Straight Outta Compton. I mean, like, a lot of these different types of pictures as well. One of my favorite stories about him, too, is about how smart of a businessman Tull is. There's this great story that Guillermo del Toro tells about, you know, del Toro wanted to make Hellboy 3. He wanted to make it. He had this grand vision for it, but it was going to cost $200 million. And he tells this great story about meeting with Tull, and Tull's like, I love Hellboy, blah, blah. I'm not giving you a check for $200 million, but I love your stuff, you know? Because, you know, he never got swept up by the pie. He was always a business guy. He thought straight. He kept some mistakes from happening, not everything they ever put out was great, but they delivered us some of our favorite movies at the same time. And it sounds like he's not just stepping down from Legendary, it sounds like he's stepping out of the entertainment business. And if that's the case, it's really unfortunate because he's one of these guys that the average film fan does not know his name, but is really one of the big heavy hitters responsible for a lot of our favorite movies. So it's really unfortunate, but I applaud the guy if that's what he's doing. He's doing what makes him happy. He's had a great career. So what can I say is that he'll be missed if this is the case.
I mean, I'm with Jeremy. I'm just waiting for the right time when somebody tries to rip off the right company and the building burns down and I get to be Milton from Office Space and just chill and just complain about salt on my glass for the rest of my life. Thomas Tull, on the other hand, it seems like he's still going to be on as a somewhat of a producer, at least with the MonsterVerse films, which gets me excited because I do believe in his vision. So when you're talking about the King Kongs and the Godzillas and stuff like that, you want somebody who initially really believed in that content and shepherded that to life initially is still going to remain on and help oversee some of that production. But according to the Hollywood Reporter, there was some butting of heads with the company that bought out Legendary. So I understand why you may be like, you know what, I don't need this in my life anymore. I'm just going to back off. I'll still stay on and produce the projects that I really care about, but everything else, have at it. I'm going to go lay on a beach somewhere or focus on my other non-entertainment related companies. But what the guy has done since he became the head of Legendary Pictures, the track record speaks for itself. Nobody in this industry gets out clean. You're like a home run hitter where you strike out a lot, but the ones you knock out of the park, it's been in a pretty impressive resume for a Legendary.
If it wasn't a matter of conflict, I can just see it saying, wait a minute, if I'm Thomas Tull, you want to give me a hard time? One second, let me just double check something. Yeah, I'm rich. I'm going to go hang out on the beach. See you later. I know, Kenny, what do you think?
You know what? When I see these kind of stories, it reminds me, this is a weird direction to take this, it reminds me of, moving to L.A. with a script in your hand and a dream and thinking, I'm an artist, I'm going to make things. And then you see the pyramid of business that is up above you and how much it takes to get movies made. And a guy like this, you mentioned, a Legendary, that name comes up, you see that logo, you're already kind of in. There's other studios that just, like Studio Canal for me, I'm like, oh, this is going to tug my heartstrings, I'm going to like this. But things can change. Orion Pictures, remember them? They put out a lot of great movies. RoboCop. And then suddenly they're gone. I'm not saying the reasons are the same, but stuff like this is big behind the scenes when someone like this track record decides to move on down for whatever reason. Not saying Legendary is going to go away, but you never know. You could look back in 5 years and think, wow, they were doing this, and all of a sudden now they're this way. It is important to pay attention to this. You see some of the big numbers of money, and he sold it to a Chinese conglomerate. All these words, my eyes have to roll back in my head because it's business school. But it's important, especially the young filmmakers out there, to learn the business side of this business. Interesting note, he is on the board for the National Baseball Hall of Fame, Ellis.
Is he really? He votes?
So we need to talk to him about getting Don Mattingly in there on the veterans vote.
Donnie Baseball, shave those sideburns, Mattingly. Do you let in Clemens or Bonds? This guy loves Godzilla, and Godzilla was an artificially engineered beast. So if he likes Godzilla, he could probably vote Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame.
All right, guys, well, listen, it is Wednesday, which means it's time for us for that little feeling old segment we call Rewind, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. This is a segment of the show where we look back at the films celebrating their 10th anniversaries this week and the films celebrating their 20th anniversaries this week. And speaking of Hall of Fame, we've got a Hall of Fame lineup this week. 10 years ago today, The Hitcher came out. I don't know. And then coming out 20 years ago today, we had Fierce Creatures, which is kind of like the spiritual love child of
A Fish Called Wanda.
Of A Fish Called Wanda, and I just absolutely love that film. And then, of course, Prefontaine.
Right.
I'll start this one off. Fierce Creatures for me. It was not A Fish Called Wanda. Has to be in. I don't know. Personally, for me, I think everybody should have A Fish Called Wanda in the top 10 favorite comedies of all time. That movie makes me laugh myself sick every time I watch it. And when I thought, oh my gosh, this is a sequel to A Fish Called Wanda. It's not. It's kind of like a spiritual sequel, if you will, in many ways. Not A Fish Called Wanda quality, but a lot of very, very, very good laughs in it at the same time. That's the one that stands out to me. Oh my God, here's the thing that's really making me stump. If Fierce Creatures is celebrating its 20th, how old is A Fish Called Wanda?
That was 88.
88.
Oh
88. Approaching 30.
God. Which of these films stand out to you, Ken?
Like I've seen all of them, John. Prefontaine is interesting because it's Jared Leto before he was sending dead creatures to his fellow actors.
Right.
He was still that guy. He was still Jordan Catalano to me at this point. from My So-Called Life. But it was also interesting because Prefontaine is about the famous runner Stephen Prefontaine. And at the same time, there was another movie that came out. I'm looking at
which is better,
Without Limits.
Which is
I hadn't
Without
seen
Limits
that.
is the better Prefontaine movie.
Which reminds me of the late 90s of that Armageddon, Deep Impact, Wyatt Earp, Tombstone, Runner versus Runner. That's a weird little side note in Hollywood. There.
Volcano, Dante's Peak.
Exactly. More Pierce Brosnan.
What do you think?
So Triple X Return of Xander Cage comes out this weekend, folks. I have not seen, usually the 10-year mark, when we go back 10 years, I'm like, okay, if I don't recognize anything there, we'll go back 20 years and I'll recognize something there. I have not seen any of the movies here. The thing I do recognize is it says from the producers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm like, I remember that. I've seen that one. I literally have, January, you've been at it for a very long time. How you doing?
Mark, what about you?
I used to be a distance runner. I guess I kind of still am, but I really am very, very lazy. And so I was a huge fan of Without Limits. That was the better Prefontaine movie. But both of them have pretty good casting. So the Prefontaine movie, like Ken said, had Jared Leto as the role of Steve Prefontaine. And then Bill Bowerman, his legendary coach at Oregon, was played by R. Lee Ermey, who was the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Yep.
That's a pretty good casting. Without Limits, my better of the two films had Billy Crudup as Steve Prefontaine and had Donald Sutherland as Bill Bowerman. So the really good casting on both of them. Tom Cruise produced Without Limits. Without Limits made $700,000 at the box office total. Prefontaine made a little over $500,000 at the box office. So people are not clamoring to go out into theaters to see the movie based on the awesome Oregon Runner. But if you guys have never seen either one of those, it's a really incredible story. Check it out. It's better than The Hitcher.
You know what I love is that my speechlessness was now verified and validated because I was like, oh, you mean the rest of the world's in the same boat as me? That's great. That's fantastic. Although it does show how long Jared Leto's been at it because I could go back to to Fight Club and I was like, all right, Fight Club, Requiem for a Dream. I don't think the dude has done anything before that, and here we are. So that's interesting.
All right, guys, we reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her ass, she's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
THR reports that Kenya Barris, the creator of ABC's acclaimed comedy Blackish, is teaming with Clippers superstar Blake Griffin and 20th Century Fox to develop a remake of the 1992 sports comedy White Men Can't Jump. Written and directed by Ron Shelton, the movie starred Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes as two street basketball hustlers who at first try to hustle each other, then team up for a bigger score. Griffin's Mortal Media will help produce the film, with the company already in development on a remake of The Rocketeer. A release date has yet to be determined. Mark Barsell, a remake of White Men Can't Jump.
Ashley, I'm glad you went to me first because White Men Can't Jump had an inordinately huge impact on my life as I still play in multiple basketball rec leagues as an adult. I love the original movie, and a lot of times we get very defensive about the things we love being remade. I'm kind of totally on board with this idea. I think it sounds like the right time. I think it sounds like the right team behind the scenes producing it. When you talk about something like Blackish, which has really taken off, when you talk about a guy like Blake Griffin, who not only is a credible basketball player, he's a great he's got a great comedic sensibility about him, which I think he can lend to White Men Can't Jump. Now, the question is, who do you cast as Billy Hoyle, and who do you cast as Sidney Dean? Do you get two actors? Do you get two pros? Do you get one and one? I don't know who to cast. This is why I rely on you, my panel of panelists, to help me out here. As far as the Woody Harrelson role, the Billy Hoyle role, I think Zac Efron, you're just too pretty. Josh McCouga yesterday said Miles Teller, which was really interesting to me. As far as the Sidney Dean character, I think they might go with a pro for that one. Jimmy Butler was not horrible in Office Christmas Party in that cameo. I think LeBron is just too famous to do something like that. But Blake Griffin, if he wants to step in front of the camera, maybe that's his role.
It's interesting bringing up Miles Teller. A little thing I came across the other day. I guess went on for a while. La La Land, of course, is very hot on the Oscar buzz right now. Did you know that Miles Teller was originally cast to play the Ryan Gosling role?
And him and Damien Chazelle had some interesting text messages when he found out he was no longer in the role.
That's right. And do any of you guys know who was originally supposed to play the Emma Stone role?
That was Wesley Snipes.
Hold on.
Right?
I actually saw this a couple days ago, and it might have been you tweeting about it.
Same first name.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson.
Yes, yeah.
La La Land was actually supposed to be Emma Watson and Miles Teller. Look, I'm cool with this. I'm cool with it. as long as Blake Griffin has nothing to do with this movie creatively, but from a business standpoint. I mean, when I first read the headlines where I was afraid that he was going to be playing the Wesley Snipes role, I'm like, well, you've just sabotaged the movie right away.
Why?
He's an athlete. He's not an actor.
But they always throw his name in the mix. Like he's done stand-up before. He's really good in those Kia commercials. I think he could make a logical leap to play a basketball player in front of the camera.
Did you just say that there's a logical leap from being in a Kia commercial
good in the Kia.
to
He's
being
really
the lead in a Hollywood motion picture?
He's really good in the
Just
Kia
do that?
commercials. Yes.
Ken, what do you think?
Is he doing that to Campea or to me?
I'm going to sell this. I think this could work. Blackish has been hitting home runs on TV, so it's got a good creative team behind it. I'm not just opposed right away to remakes, but it's just so much of it. I think you could retell it. Keep Woody Harrelson's shorts, though. By the way, I'm saying sell on an overall pump the brakes on taking things from 20 years ago and redoing it. I get the business behind it. We talked about the business of Hollywood. It is a known property. It's a popular movie. I believe at one point Wesley Snipes was a bankable star. Man, come on, Demolition Man. I get why someone would want to do this. I love Ron Shelton stuff. But I'm pumping the brakes on the remakes as a whole. That's
Okay, Jeremy.
I'm so glad you went there, Ken, because I thought the cheese was going to stand alone. Thank you. I'm going to say sell also because, yeah, it's when I was hearing the story right now, I had this look on my face like that. And that's not an endearing, I was like, why is it happening? That's my question, like, why? What could they add to it that I didn't already see in White Men Can't Jump, which I agree with you, Ellis. It was one of those movies I was like, what's this? And I turned on the TV and I was like, that was enjoyable. Maybe I'll watch that as the years go on. And I have. So it's one of these things where I don't know what it could offer. I'm always holding out, and my argument is always like, well, it could be 21 Jump Street again, but that's the exception, not the rule. Based on the rule, I'm going to sell because I agree. It's just like, hey, why don't we just enjoy the things that happened 20 years ago for the things that happened 20 years ago, knowing that they aged pretty well, and let's just enjoy that, not have to remake it and make a lesser version of it.
Here's the other thing you could do with this movie, though. Is that King and Duck are like the two legends of the playground when in the original White Men Can't Jump. So if you do a new White Men Can't Jump, King and Duck could be played by Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. Somebody tweeted that idea to me yesterday, and I agree.
Yeah, you could totally do that. That would be great. All right, what's next?
Collider's own Christina Radish recently spoke to Dallas Buyers Club filmmaker Jean-Marc Vallée about his newest HBO series, Sharp Objects, when he casually mentioned that his long-in-the-works Janis Joplin biopic is officially dead. The project was previously set up with Amy Adams to star before it was halted by lawsuits involving the production companies. As recently as last fall, it seemed like it still might be happening, but as Vallée mentioned in the interview, he and Adams are moving on from the project in order to make Sharp Objects. Ken, with Amy Adams' adaptation Dead in the Water, buy or sell it ever getting off the ground again?
I do say buy, but keep in mind I'm an old rock DJ, man. That's what I used to do. I was a music journalist for a while, too. I love rock and roll. I said on Schmoes when this story first broke, I want a Woodstock-connected universe, all right? I want a Janis Joplin movie. I want a Jimi Hendrix movie. I want a Creedence movie. There's a lot of stories to tell in the history of rock and roll, and I think Janis is a tragic and an interesting story. And, if we get Johnny Cash and Jamie Foxx doing Ray, I think this should happen as well. I know there's another project as well, but I absolutely buy it because I think there's great stories in the history of rock and roll that don't just need to be Scorsese documentaries on HBO.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, it's fascinating. All these musical artists, the biopics are just kind of slipping through the cracks and going away on us, man. We're not getting our Sinatra. It was Sinatra, right? We're not getting Sinatra, and now Janis Joplin.
Sinatra's gone.
Right, both will happen. We will get biopics on these people eventually. So I'm going to buy that it's going to happen. Maybe not with Amy Adams, but it will happen eventually. Interesting story. That's what I love about biopics, is that you think you know the person because you know their music, and you don't. These people have lives, personal lives. They're more complex than you thought because it just slips your mind to think of them as people. They're artists, but artists are just people, So I'm looking forward to all these biopics. Buy that it's going to happen. Possibly just not with her.
Oh, I sell this so hard. I've been so excited about this particular movie ever since the first. It had to be years ago that the first came out that they were trying to get this done. I think Amy Adams was the one to play Janis Joplin. Now, There are reports going around that Michelle Williams may be playing Janis Joplin in another production of a Janis Joplin story in some form or another. You know, I'm one of these guys where I used to watch, I don't watch it as much anymore, but I used to watch Pawn Stars all the time.
Back when it was real?
Back when it was real. And there was this one episode where a guy came in with a brick that was purportedly a brick from Janis Joplin's house that she grew up in, and like the brick went for like $1,000. But so it breaks my heart that, like, yeah, you're right, the Sinatra one, I was dying to see that. I've been dying to see that one, so I'm going to sell this. What about you?
It's taken another little piece of my heart as well, John, because I thought Amy Adams was perfect casting, and when you just hear that on its ear, Amy Adams playing Janis Joplin in a movie based on her entire life, that wins an Oscar. Like, you know what? You don't even have to show up to set. Here's your statue. You did it. I don't want to see this done, though, unless you can use the actual music. You have to secure those rights to be able to have Janis Joplin's voice and those recordings play an intricate part of the film, because I think a huge misfire was the Jimi Hendrix biopic, All Is By My Side. Was not a bad movie and featured a lot of great performances, but because you could not use actual Hendrix tunes, it just doesn't have the same emotional impact.
Right.
I mean, these artists pour their heart and soul into the music, and if you can't use the music, you're only telling half of the story. So I buy that this is eventually going to happen someday. I don't think it's going to be with Amy Adams anymore. I buy that we do get a Janis Joplin story on the big screen, or maybe like an HBO, Netflix kind of thing. I would love to see it, and I am totally on board. And Ken, you and I can talk about this over a few beverages later. Your shared universe that culminates at Woodstock. You can start it way, way back in the day with Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil. You can have a post-credit scene where there's some kid just got out of the army and he picked up a guitar and he's playing it with his left hand, and it's weird, and it ends up being Jimi Hendrix. Let's write this.
All right, what's next?
Green Lantern is a tough character to bring to the silver screen, as witnessed by the failed Ryan Reynolds adaptation from 2011. Another thing about the character not easily adaptable is his actual ring, a source of his power that seems to be fairly unlimited, which is something Warcraft director Duncan Jones doesn't exactly like. Taking to his Twitter account, Jones offered up his ideas on how to do a good Green Lantern story, tweeting, "Green Lantern should be about a simple-minded jock who has to come up with imaginative new ideas every time he uses the ring." He added a couple more ideas, but then ended with his actual thoughts about the character, which seems to have taken the internet by storm. "Anyway, I'm not doing Green Lantern. I think he's dumb. Hope someone proves me wrong." John, would you buy or sell a Duncan Jones adaptation of Green Lantern?
Okay, this issue is really interesting. First of all, look, I love Duncan Jones. I think the dude is a super talented director. I am one of the few people around that actually has a mild appreciation for Warcraft. Was it the movie it totally could have been? No, but as a guy who played an embarrassing amount of hours playing Warcraft, I was sucked into the world that he created, and that was a tough world to create. I loved it. And we've had him, one of my favorite moments of 2016, we had Duncan Jones in this studio sitting in that chair, and I got to sit and talk to him on camera, and one of my favorite moments, the dude is great. I love Duncan Jones. Now, with that being said, this is a very interesting story because, number one, I think I'm all for taking creative approaches to characters we never would have thought of before. The idea of, hey, maybe let's take a new take on Green Lantern, and what if somebody made a movie, and he was just like a fan. Duncan was just on Twitter like a fan saying, hey, what if they did this? What if they said the ring wasn't powered by willpower, but it was powered by creativity and stuff like that? Cool idea. And then he tweets, but I'm not directing Green Lantern. I think he's dumb, which is totally cool. That's fine. I think there are certain DC heroes that are dumb. I think there are certain Marvel heroes that are dumb. I mean, we all have certain heroes that we think are dumb. He thinks Green Lantern's the ones that's dumb. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But it became interesting because certain websites, including our own Collider.com, decided to run a story and put on social media that Duncan Jones thinks Green Lantern is dumb. But then Duncan Jones started going after those places like Collider.com saying, you're putting out fake news. That's fake news. And it's like, no, you tweeted, I'm not directing Green Lantern. I think he's dumb. It's not fake. You actually did say that. And there's nothing wrong with you saying it. It's perfectly fine that you said. So I think it's interesting. I personally think Green Lantern can be one of the cooler characters. If you read like some of the Jeff Johns runs on Green Lantern, like Rebirth. Especially, like you realize you could do some really, really cool things with Green Lantern. I'm glad they're taking a crack at him. But there's nothing wrong with Duncan Jones thinking that he's dumb any more than there's anything wrong with me thinking Martian Manhunter is dumb. There, I said it. Anyway, Mark, what about you?
Whoa! I don't know who Martian Manhunter is. I will say that I want Duncan Jones to keep this because he is such a funny, witty guy who does say what's on his mind, and sometimes as if you're an entertainer, you're somebody in the public eye, you don't realize just how big your microphone is. So when you tweet something that you think is pretty innocuous, the internet will take it and run with it, and they run way too far to where you're like, I wasn't talking about this at all. Duncan Jones has a great sense of humor. This is where this originated from. I don't think he was taking this all that seriously. When we had him in studio, he was taking pot shots at his good friend Ryan Johnson. We're just kind of joking around, and it's that kind of fun that sometimes gets lost in translation, not necessarily from him to his keyboard, but once it gets out there in the world, people will take it and run with it. And we, on Movie Talk, are as guilty of doing that sometimes as anybody, where we see a picture of Pierce Brosnan, and I just gave him a 3-picture deal to be Cable. Was that the logical leap? Maybe, but sometimes when you see a tweet, just laugh at it or just have fun with it. I hope Duncan Jones continues to share his opinions with the world because he does it in a very concise, fun, witty way. I like the way the guy makes a movie. I like the way he sends a tweet. I'm a big fan of his, so don't lose this.
Jeremy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, was it Stephen Fry or Stephen Fry? I'm always like, how do you pronounce his first name?
I'm going Stephen.
Stephen Fry, yeah, I'm going to say Stephen Fry. But he left Twitter because he made a joke when he accepted an award about a friend of his who was in the audience, and then people on Twitter blasted him for it. And he's like, you guys don't get the context. I know. And then they blasted him, and he was like, I'm out. I'm done because this is ugly.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting thing. You totally hit the nail on the head where people will take something that is a joke to somebody, and then they'll be like, well, we got to run with it because that, and it's a question of context. If you just take, well, I don't like Green Lantern, I think he's dumb, that's all you want to see. But there is a whole lead up of him going, well, I would do this, that. It's not that I'm saying he's a piece of shit. I'm just saying, like, for me, like, I thought Aquaman was dumb for the longest time. Then, like, Jeff Johns totally changed me on that. Different. We're not related. And I will say, though, anytime someone tweets, messages, texts, or emails with a smiley face after something like that, I want to punch a kitten. That's nothing against you, Duncan Jones. Nothing against you. Get it? Yeah.
But you can't tweet with a smile. You can't end things with a smiley face.
Not if it's like, I think he's dumb, smiley face. Then people, for some odd reason, just like, ugh, it's just, if he'd ended it with a period.
Hey, just so you know, slept with your girlfriend last night. Smiley face.
I'm telling you, there's something about the smiley face that makes it worse. I wonder if he had just said it, maybe it would have been only kind of infuriating per the internet side on it. But yeah, we all have our heroes. We all have our people. Directors have characters they think is dumb. I agree with you. He's a talented director. Anything with the orcs in Warcraft, I liked in Warcraft. So, I mean, hey, dude, do you think Green Lantern's dumb? It's all good. I like your idea about Green Lantern. It's fascinating.
Ken.
I do agree. I buy the idea that passive-aggressive emojis do make communication hard. I also buy the idea of this the question, would you buy or sell Duncan Jones' adaptation of a Green Lantern? I buy it because I'm not a fan. I have that benefit of just, hey, change the character up completely. And the son of David Bowie wants to tweet and say things and come up with this fun, crazy idea. You got go picture, kid, whether you want it or not. I like the idea. It's kind of fun. Make him kind of a dumb jock who has to figure things out along the way. And just focusing on that. I don't have the knowledge of Green Lantern like, say, you guys do to think that this would ruin the character. It just seems kind of fun, and he's a cheeky guy, that Duncan Jones, so have fun.
And for those of you who are like doing double takes to screen for what Ken said, yeah, actually a lot of people still don't realize Duncan Jones was David Bowie's son, which is not what makes him a great director. He's just a great director because he's a great director. All right, guys, listen. At the end of the show, because our show is live, we like to save a little bit of time to take your live Twitter questions. So you can make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video and start firing in those questions right now. But as it's being Wednesday, it's time for us to do a little bit of crash course. You know, one of our most anticipated movies this year is, of course, Justice League. Now, there's been a lot of stuff out about it. We wanted to bring it all together and let you know everything that we know about the new Justice League. John Schnepp, take it away.
With the calendar clicking over to 2017, we're now just 10 short months away from a grand team-up DC style that'll be bringing together arguably the most powerful team-up ever. Well, that's not it. That's more like it. Sure, we love our Marvel movies, but it's time to shine a light on the one film that will finally see Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg share the screen for the first time. Oh, and Soups. Well, hey, we'll get there. Easy. If you were wondering what we know about Justice League so far, look no further because Collider Crash Course has got you covered, son. Let's start here. Who's back? As we saw by the end of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, director Zack Snyder adapted the popular comic book storyline, The Death of Superman, and made it the climax of the movie. Soups dies at the hands of the morphed General Zod, now known as Doomsday. Doomsday dies as well, just like in the comics, and we're left with a new team, one that we saw Bruce Wayne forming in the sneak peek teaser released at San Diego Comic-Con, aka Christmas for Us Geeks, back in July. In the footage, Bruce Wayne contacts the Flash and Aquaman for what we can only assume is a very exclusive invitation for them to join this new team. Aquaman seems pretty hesitant at first, but the Flash is more than happy to join in. By the end of the footage, Cyborg is there as well, and we see the money shot of money shots. A new League of Justice, all working together. Not yet, Soups. So now that we have our team, who else is coming on board the movie? Let's look at the supporting characters populating the film. There's J.K. Simmons' Commissioner Gordon, the third incarnation of the character, and one that was revealed to us with a gritty-looking image of the commission on a rooftop next to the bat symbol. And in a set report from our own Steve Frosty Weintraub, it's here that we learn a bit about the story of the movie. Commissioner Gordon's call to Batman also seems to summon parts of the League as well. Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Cyborg all meet to discuss the mysterious reasons as to why scientists from all around the globe are disappearing. This plotline seems to include the Oscar winner, and it's nice to see him getting some screen time with the team because it looks like this version of Commissioner Gordon is in ass-kicking mode. Another new character introduced in the film will be Willem Dafoe's Vulko, a character from the Aquaman line of comics who is a storied scientific advisor to Atlantis and was one of the most notorious political figures in the Atlantean society. We can only assume that since Vulko is also a scientist, storied at that, he must be central to the plot and perhaps is one of the missing advisors the League will be searching for. Speaking of Aquaman comics, we also have the addition of Amber Heard, portraying the Queen of Atlantis, Mera. Recently, DC Comics godfather Geoff Johns tweeted that her character is one of his most anticipated and exciting developments for the 2017 year, a live-action Mera. How she fits into the plot of the movie remains to be seen, though we can only assume it has something to do with telling Aquaman to stop hanging out with his drinking buddies and come home to take out the garbage. Come on, Aquaman, get it together. We've also got official confirmation that Amy Adams' Lois Lane, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, Jeremy Irons' Alfred, and Connie Nielsen's Hippolyta are all returning in some form or another, as well as Diane Lane's Martha. She'll be back.
Why did you say that name?
Where is she? Martha!
Why did you say that name?
We're moms and gonna hang out together. Now we're friends. Now we're friends, right? But perhaps the biggest addition thus far is the casting of Game of Thrones' Kieran Hines as the villain Steppenwolf. When looking at the many villains that make up Justice League's Rogues Gallery, you probably wouldn't even find Steppenwolf in the top 100 slots. So when he was announced to be the primary villain of Justice League, many were left scratching their heads. Check it out. Steppenwolf was originally created in the DC comic book New Gods #7 in 1972 from the comic book legend himself, Jack King Kirby. This dark new god is in charge of the armies of Apocalypse, that's spelled Apokolips, under the rule of the insanely powerful dictator, Darkseid. Aside from being his main lieutenant, Steppenwolf also happens to be Darkseid's uncle, which is odd because the two hardly share a family resemblance, with Darkseid looking like some kind of weird giant golem. Most of the time, he looks like a rock creature. He's scary. Though not appearing in the theatrical cut of the film, a deleted scene from the extended edition of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice reveals Steppenwolf showing up in front of Lex Luthor surrounded by a number of mother boxes. This is technology from the alien world that Steppenwolf hails from, but he quickly disappears after being confronted by the police looking to arrest Luthor. These mother boxes were also confirmed to be the MacGuffin of the Justice League film, revealed by producers on Collider's set visit to be at the center of the prologue of the film. This key technology was left in the hands of the Amazonians, the Atlanteans, and mankind. This lines up rather nicely with the formation of the Justice League of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Batman and the Flash, with Cyborg already having been birthed from mankind's mother box as well. The New Gods-inspired plot point will also make sense of the nightmare dream sequence that we saw in the Batman v Superman film.
producer Deborah Snyder revealed that the parademons glimpsed in Batman's Nightmare are back and will play a major antagonistic role in the film. She also teased potentially more of Batman's visions, but at this point we don't know much more than that. So with Jahns coming in to play Steppenwolf via a motion capture performance, does that mean there's no Darkseid at all? The only thing we do know, sort of, is a rumor that says Darkseid might appear in the previously mentioned prologue, where his assault on Earth will introduce the 3 mother boxes. The mother boxes are the travel gateway, or boom tubes, between Earth and Apocalypse. So maybe this perhaps sets up the big baddie for Justice League Part 2. Let the speculation commence. A prologue, teased as epic in scope, introduces 3 mother boxes to the humans, the Atlanteans, and the Amazonians. A plot revolving around missing scientists and a team-up of metahumans tasked with finding them and stopping the new god from Apocalypse, Steppenwolf, from getting his claws on them. This rough plot, gleaned from set visit stills and one teaser, there's still one thing missing. That's right, Superman, the one character needed to complete the Justice League. Easy. Wait, Green Lantern, I know. Sadly, we don't have much to go on that front, other than a rumor that a member of the Green Lantern Corps will actually make an appearance in some kind of action set piece in the movie, which would make sense, but for right now, we can only assume that Green Lantern will appear in a post-credit tease or some kind of setup for Justice League Part 2. The worst kept secret coming out of Warner Brothers is the return of Superman, which we know is happening thanks to an Instagram post by Henry Cavill himself. The image he teased back in August revealed what everyone hoped would actually happen: a black Kryptonian suit that Superman wore after he was resurrected in the Return of Superman comic book storyline. That's right, he's back in black. Though we don't have many details about Cavill's Man of Steel or how he's going to return in the film, the main question most fans have is, will he or won't he be sporting that Superman mullet? After all, the tone of the movie will be considerably more lighthearted than Batman v Superman, and what's a better lighthearted moment than Superman sporting that mullet? Think about it.
And hey guys, I want to remind you that Movie Talk is not the only show on Collider Video today. A little bit earlier today, the brand new episode of Nightmares dropped. Go and check that out right now. Also, a new episode of Collider Heroes dropped yesterday. And of course, every Friday, a brand new episode of Awesome-tacular with Jeremy Jahns aired. Yes. It is on the Collider Go 90 network. It's free for you to check out. Make sure you go and see that. All right, with all that said, it's time to get to mailbag. So Ashley, what do we got?
Matt writes, greetings from Hotlanta, go Falcons. On Tuesday Movie Talk, I was surprised to hear you say you'd be up for recasting Leia in Star Wars. That said, who could you see stepping into the role? And would any actress want such a heavy role, seeing as Carrie Fisher was so iconic in the role?
Yeah, look, I think the idea was, like, I'm not saying recasting her is what they should do, but I am saying that because of it's what I believe Carrie Fisher would want them to do, is to carry on the character, especially since they had big plans for the character. I mean, I was always speculating that I thought they were going to, at some point by the end of the new trilogy, all 3 of the original big 3 characters will have been killed off. So I thought that anyway. But I didn't really think about if they decided to recast, and I think there would be a number of big Hollywood actresses who would love to honor Carrie Fisher and this role that she created. And you know how important I think the role of Princess Leia has been in the history of Hollywood and creating those types of characters. I think there would be a lot of big heavy hitter actresses who would want to honor Carrie Fisher by doing that. So a couple that come to mind. One, Sally Field, I think would be interesting to see step in and do the role a little bit. Maybe the greatest actress of all time in Meryl Streep. She might be a good fit for that as well. So there are a couple that would come to mind. Again, I'm not saying Star Wars should do anything. I don't think there is one clear, correct answer. But if they decided to go with the recast, I think they would have a long list of very good actresses who would love to honor Carrie Fisher by finishing out that new trilogy for her. I don't know, Mark, what do you think?
I mean, I have that weird churning in my stomach about it, and it's not because I had Del Taco for breakfast. You know, it's just
breakfast.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was from last night, but I ate it this morning, so it's breakfast. I just feel weird answering this because I don't think it's something I want to see yet, and I could totally change my mind in a month, in a year when I see Episode 8. I'll be like, yeah, we do need to recast this role. If I had to do it, if I'm Lucasfilm and that's the only course of action to go, I would nominate either Jessica Lange.
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody else who's been a very good mother figure in a superhero kind of world. That would be Diane Lane.
Yep.
I think would be really good. I mean, you simply can't follow Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher gets off stage, the show's done. In my opinion, still, I hope I change my mind, but maybe I won't.
Ken, what do you think who could you see if they decided to go in that direction? Who could possibly fill into those shoes?
It's a complicated question, and we're all Star Wars fans here, so it does affect us. Annette Bening comes to mind.
Oh,
someone with who could pull that off. I think that's a possibility. You guys, Meryl Streep, definitely. I think I've seen that tweeted. And for me, as a Star Wars fan, I've had this discussion with my friend Joseph Scrimshaw and Jennifer Landa on our show, and I was convinced that this actually might be a good idea, out of respect to the character, which is different from Carrie Fisher, the character of Princess Leia, and needing to play out the possible story. You got books like Bloodline and all those kind of things where there was something to be said about Princess Leia standing alone at the end of the episode 9, which again honors that character. And this isn't quite Dumbledore. This is a bigger personality that's been around longer, playing the role for 40 years. So I still, in my heart, like Mark said, show's over. But if you have to, I think it makes sense, and I can get behind it, as complicated as it is. And someone like Annette Bening comes to mind for me.
Jeremy.
Annette Bening and Diane Lane are actually two really good picks. Good job, guys. Better than what I had, because I had nobody, because I haven't even gone there in my head. I mean, as much as I'm like, oh yeah, recasting would be the way to go, who am I to tell the multi-billion-dollar studio what they should do with their multi-billion-dollar franchise, you know? So, I mean, I haven't even thought of who would take up the mantle, but I like your picks on it. Both of you guys, so good job. Mark and
my name's
Ken.
Ken.
Ken, you're Ken, right?
Yeah.
All right. Is it Napzok or Napzok?
Winky face.
Yeah, winky face
Winky
emoji.
face.
I'm tweeting that right now. Anyhow, those are two good folks.
All right, guys, we're going to jump in because we're running out of time. We're going to jump right into our Twitter questions. Again, start firing questions. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video. Wendy, what have you picked out?
Here's an interesting one. Adam Douglas writes, Maya Rudolph and Patrick Stewart announced enjoying TJ Miller for Emoji Movie. Does that add any excitement? And so I double-checked the Sony Pictures Twitter account. So Patrick Stewart is going to be voicing the poop emoji.
It makes me giggle.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's going to be a good movie, but I will say that when Patrick Stewart pops in as the Swanson's baby on Family Guy, it crushes me every time. So it might give me some laughs initially. Doesn't mean it needs to be a movie. It could be a fine sketch.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It doesn't make me look forward to the movie any bit anymore, but they're certainly cool casting.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is the perfect voice actor because of the career he's built and because he's Patrick Stewart and because of his voice. So I think that's great that he's in the movie. I feel like it'll be one of those things where it's like in that horrible movie, every time Patrick Stewart spoke, it was good-ish based on we'll see what the script has. But no, not really. And there's still no Emoji Movie for
Ken.
me.
Love Patrick Stewart. He is funny. He is great. There's a lot of people behind making this movie, a lot of talented people. God bless you in your careers. I'm not even going to drive near a theater when this movie's out.
All right, what's next?
The Screen Geek writes, what about that Andy Serkis Jungle Book movie? Is that still a thing? Love you guys. Yay for Ken.
Look, they keep saying, yay for Ken indeed. They keep saying that it's still a thing without showing us the thing. It's like that girl that is like just slowly kind of breaking up with you and hasn't come over to see you in 3 weeks, and you're on the phone. Are we still together? Oh yeah, we're still together. Are you coming over tomorrow? No, I'm real busy. So like they keep saying it's a thing. I don't know. I'm really looking for. I want to see what they can do with this, but I'm starting to lose hope that it's actually going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, that studio, that movie, that picture, that hypothetical girlfriend is texting 3 dots with a winky face. It's not. Yeah,
are we still together? Oh yeah, we're still together.
Yeah,
Smiley face.
dot, winky face. Yeah, I agree. I'm sure they were like, oh yeah, our Jungle Book is gonna crush when Disney bombs out on theirs, and they were like, oh, you mean that was good and well received? We'll be back. Hold on, we'll be back. Dot, winky face. So we'll see what happens.
Ken?
Big wait and see for me. Yeah, when things kind of fade away like that, it happens. And you're right. You're going head to head. We're going to get in that ring. Oh, this guy's pretty big. It's like bull. I'm not going to fight him today. So, yeah, I don't know. Serkis is so talented. I'd like to see his take on it. I don't know at this point.
I think it could live because it would be a much darker take, a much more adult-friendly take on the Jungle Book. The last I heard, they were actually already planning to shoot it because the post-production on this Jungle Book is what's going to take the bulk of the time. So they were already looking at locations. Now the movie did get moved back a year from its initial, aspired to release date, but I do believe it is still being planned to release, I think 2018 2018 or 2019 is what they're looking at.
All right, what's next?
J. Robbie Jones writes, I'm not sure how the process works, but why doesn't Collider Video have its own app?
Because reasons.
That's a good explanation.
Stay tuned. All right, what's next?
All right, Food Mansing writes, since I'll be seeing Mark Ellis on Friday, what is the best performance by a stand-up comic in a movie? Lewis, King of Comedy?
Oh, that's a good question. What do you think?
It's tough for me because I love so many of them. Great question, Food Mansing. I am going to say I would take Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura because it was just like it was literally like watching a comet in a movie theater, just right before your eyes. But Jim Carrey also owed a lot of his background, as a lot of stand-ups do, to sketch and his performances on In Living Color. I think the greatest performance by a stand-up comic doing comedy things but also being a great actor is Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam. You put it on, it's going to tug at your heartstrings, and when he gets on the air, it is like Robin Williams is doing stand-up, which is one of the great things you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, Robin Williams in anything and everything. That guy was like perfection, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 on his performances. I mean, whether it be drama, comedy, or the merging of the two. I agree. Ace Ventura, like Jim Carrey, when he came out, it was like we hadn't had that real Jerry Lewis type for a long time. And then the 90s hit us with Jim Carrey, and the world hasn't spun the same since. For all my things about Adam Sandler, I'm not saying this is the greatest, but my favorite Adam Sandler role is The Wedding Singer, because there's something about that movie where Adam Sandler found the Goldilocks zone of again, heartstrings, and he had heart and he had his comedic prowess in there. I really liked it, and again, that hasn't been the same since. But that's what I got to say about that. Mark Ellis, whenever he's in a movie, that will be number one.
Little effort.
Ken?
Did stand up myself for about a decade of dominance
and you
over
were
there.
Great.
Not so much.
You still are great, and you will do it again.
Not so much. But so definitely Dane Cook and Good Luck Chuck, Craig T. Nelson, and anything like that. You know, technically Kevin Spacey started as a stand-up comic. I could cheat and go that. But you know what? You're right. It's about a comic. Even though Robin Williams had Mork and Mindy, something I grew up on watching and everything, that was still one of those. He broke out of not just stand-up, but sitcoms and TVs, and that was kind of like Popeye. Well, I saw Popeye in the theater too, but that's one of the seminal performances. Jim Carrey, you know, I still love Man on the Moon.
Where he's actually playing Andy Kaufman.
I'm a big Andy Kaufman guy, and I think that movie actually was pretty damn good. But yeah, I think you have to go with that.
See, I thought you were going to take Tom Hanks in Punchline. Okay, interesting.
Well, yeah, and he got his start on TV sitcoms as well. It was a Bosom Buddies that Tom Hanks did, and that was my favorite. It goes back and forth. I think my favorite Robin Williams performance is probably a film that not a lot of people have seen, and it's a Christopher Nolan film, Insomnia, where he acts opposite of Al Pacino, and both of them are amazing in that movie.
That was right around 1 hour photo, where Robin Williams, you're like,
also,
whoa, this guy is bringing the darkness.
So good in that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for us on This Is All Movie Talk. Thanks so much for joining us. I want to thank the guys at the table with me. Mr. Ken Napzok, where can people find you online?
Hey, you can find me at Ken Napzok. My show, The Napzok Files, is back up and running for 2017. Follow along the adventures there.
Mr. Jeremy Jahns.
That was well said, Ken Napzok, who I respect entirely and remember your name. My name's Jeremy Jahns. You can find me at Jeremy Jahns on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, at Real Jeremy Jahns on Facebook, and on the Verizon Go 90 network. It's free for you. It's fun to watch. I have my show Awesome Tacular, movies, games, TV. We do all sorts of fun stuff there. Go check that out.
That sounds like a spiel you would say, that first part, the things you would say to dates you had the morning after.
Winky face emoji.
Mr. Mark Ellis.
You can find me on Jeremy's new show, Awesome Tacular, on the Verizon Go 90 app. You can also find me tonight, our new time, on Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m., the Schmoes Know live show. Kenny and I are going to be on that one. Got a great cast of characters as well. And this weekend doing stand-up in Seattle at the Parlor.
Over there at the table, we got Ashley Mova.
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Ashley Mova. Happy Wednesday, guys.
And Wendy Lee.
On YouTube at The Movie Couple channel, and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Wendy Lee Zaney.
And you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter simply at John Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.